After a devastating plane crash, a couple finds themselves stranded on a deserted island in the vast ocean, and they soon have to learn shocking truth about it. Sarah and Jackson, deeply in love, sit at a beachside bar, laughing and watching a video of their many adventures together. They first met on the breathtaking island of Mauritius and have spent the past year exploring every hidden corner of the island. Tonight, however, is bittersweet. It's their final night together. In the morning, Sarah is flying to London to start an exciting new chapter in her career. Over dinner, Sarah asking Jackson to join her in London and start a new life together. However, Jackson, overwhelmed by memories of happiness on the island, hesitates. A heavy silence falls between them. Trying to ease the tension, Jackson awkwardly offers Sarah another bottle of beer. But while he's briefly away, Sarah, heartbroken and unable to face the pain of saying goodbye, quietly slips out, leaving him alone and confused when he returns. A year later, fate intervenes. Sarah finds herself back in Mauritius for her best friend's wedding. As soon as she steps off the plane, the familiar island breeze fills her with a sense of freedom she hasn't felt in months. She arrives at Solomon's house, an old friend of the bride. The house seems eerily quiet, with no one in sight. Sarah climbs over the fence, but is immediately startled by a ferocious dog. Just as she frantically retreats, Solomon appears, laughing as he calls off his guard dog. The two exchange warm greetings, and Solomon's assistant loads crates of rum into Sarah's truck for the upcoming celebration. The island is alive with festivities, and as Sarah reconnects with Pascal and other old friends, they laugh and party just as they had a year ago. Pascal mentions that the wedding will take place on the nearby island of Rodriguez, with a ferry ready to take them there in the morning. As the evening progresses, Sarah confesses how much she's missed Mauritius. The island has always been a place of joy and adventure for her, a place where her heart felt light. Pascal, sensing her longing, casually suggests she could stay this time, pointing out that her job now allows her to work remotely. Sarah smiles, but there's a flicker of doubt in her eyes. As the wedding approaches, she realizes she'll have to face him. His presence is unavoidable, especially at the beach party later that evening. Unable to ignore it any longer, Sarah gathers her courage and walks over to him. Their conversation is filled with the unspoken tension of the past year, much to the dismay of Jackson's new girlfriend, who watches from a distance, growing more and more irritated by the moment. Jackson decides to leave the party, but the girl does not give up and offers to walk her home. During the walk, Sarah manages to soften Jackson up, and they go to drinking together at the house. As the night progresses, the two reminisce over rum, laughter filling the space between them. Sarah's flirtatious nature comes out as she flirts while putting on her life jacket, pretending to be ready for their next island adventure. Jackson can't resist Sarah's teasing, helping her tighten the rope, and they laugh together. The fun moment bringing back memories of the past and their faces now mere inches apart. For a brief second, Sarah hopes for a kiss, but Jackson hesitates. "I don't want to be hurt by you again." His words cut deep. What started as a light-hearted moment turns heavy. Old wounds resurface, and soon the two are embroiled in a heated argument. During the heated argument, they get closer and merge in a passionate kiss. The next morning, sunlight filters through the windows. Sarah wakes up beside Jackson. Quietly, she slips out of bed, gathering her things and sneaking out, vanishing just as she had a year ago. Hours later, Pascal's enraged voice breaks the silence, saying that the ferry boat is about to leave soon. Desperate, she seeks out an old friend, Freddie, an elderly man she's known for years. He's flying to the wedding himself in his small plane and is more than happy to take her along. Relieved, Sarah agrees, but her relief turns to shock when she arrives at Freddie's house and sees Jackson loading the plane as well. Sarah's heart pounds as the awkwardness between them deepens. The trio board the small aircraft, tension heavy in the air. As they take off, Freddie, trying to ease the mood, invites Sarah to sit in the co-pilot seat. Jackson, still sulking, dozes off in the back. Freddie begins chatting with Sarah, telling her stories about his late wife, who had passed away recently after a long illness. He speaks of love, the challenges, and how it's never easy. "Love's not a straight path, Sarah," Freddie says with a sigh, glancing at Jackson in the back. Freddie knows Sarah used to take flying lessons from him, So in an effort to distract her from the emotional whirlwind, he suggests she take control of the plane for a while. He reminds her of the basic controls and safety procedures, his voice calming. Jackson wakes up, noticing that a poorly secured gas cylinder has rolled under his feet. Suddenly, Freddie starts coughing convulsively, gasping for air. Jackson tries to secure the cylinder in place when suddenly he hears Sarah scream desperately that the old man having a heart attack. The pills he's fumbling for slip from his hand, scattering across the floor. In the next instant, Freddie collapses forward onto the steering wheel. Alarms blare in the cockpit as the plane begins to plummet, spiraling out of control toward the vast ocean below. Sarah's hands freeze on the controls. At the last moment, just before crashing into the sea, Sarah manages to level the plane and regain altitude. Jackson pulls Freddie's body aside and attempts CPR. However, too much time has passed and, heartbroken, he covers Freddie's lifeless body with his jacket. After taking the pilot's seat, Jackson realizes the plane's GPS is malfunctioning, and both their phones have no signal. They have no idea where they are. Jackson and Sarah attempt to reach out to the outside world using the radio. No one responds, heightening the couple's panic. Their only hope is the autopilot, which should take them to Rodriguez Island. However, it soon becomes clear that the damaged cylinder has affected critical instruments, including the autopilot. To make matters worse, they only have half a tank of fuel left. Sarah, who learned some basic piloting skills from Freddie, needs to guide the plane to safety. After estimating a route with the compass, she turns the plane 180 degrees. But the couple is shocked to see a storm closing in on them. The plane begins to tremble. They finally establish contact with Samuel, the local air traffic controller. The couple reports their situation and asks for assistance. The controller tells them they must change course immediately or they'll run out of fuel. To reach land as quickly as possible, they need to fly west, straight into the storm. Jackson, uneasy with this suggestion, asks if they can ditch the plane in the water instead. But as the storm looms closer, their communication cuts out. With no other options, they have to fly directly into the heart of the storm. Lightning flickers, and dark clouds surround them. Jackson urges Sarah to take the main pilot seat to get a better view of the instruments. Despite the turbulent weather, Sarah faces the difficult task of keeping the plane steady at the same altitude. Lightning strikes cause the aircraft to shake violently, sending the instruments haywire. Sarah decides to climb higher to escape the storm from above. Panicking, Jackson tries to talk her out of the risky maneuver, but she ignores him. Eventually, they rise above the storm, celebrating the clear skies. But their relief is short-lived. Just as Freddie had warned, they begin to suffer from altitude sickness. With Sarah unconscious, the plane begins to descend rapidly. Jackson manages to bring Sarah back to consciousness, and by some incredible stroke of luck, they manage to regain control and level the aircraft. However, during the fall, their compass broke. Jackson remembers how to make a makeshift compass. He magnetizes a needle and suspends it in a liquid with alcohol. Using this, Sarah manages to get a bearing and turns the plane westward again. Eventually, they escape the storm, but they've used up too much fuel in the process. Sarah notices that the fuel tank is almost completely depleted and switches to a secondary full tank. However, the fuel gauge continues to drop rapidly and shows no signs of recovering. Jackson suspects the fuel tank was damaged during the storm, causing it to malfunction. Determined to find and fix the issue, he decides to climb outside the plane. Jackson secures himself with a rope, and Sarah cautiously slows the plane down as he climbs out. After several failed attempts, Jackson reaches the engine compartment, where he discovers a leak and quickly tapes it shut. But in the next moment, he slips, injuring his arm, while Sarah, after securing the controls, rushes to his aid. His safety rope gets tangled in the plane's wheel, and Sarah cuts the rope, offering him a hand to pull him back inside the cockpit. Through immense effort, Sarah manages to haul Jackson inside. Upon examining his arm, she realizes it's badly fractured. She cleans the open wound with alcohol, diverts his attention, and straightens the arm. Using the first aid kit, she applies a tourniquet. After recovering from the shock, the couple returns to the dashboard and sees that only 5% of the fuel remains. Sarah suggests they lighten the load to buy more time and conserve fuel. First, she throws out all the seat and luggage, catching the attention of a boat passing below. Soon, the couple realizes this isn't enough. They look at Freddie's lifeless body in unspoken agreement. In a desperate decision, Sarah tears a family photo of a happy Freddie from the dashboard and gently tucks it into his chest pocket. She moves his body toward the exit, ready to make the heartbreaking sacrifice, and tearfully pushes him down. Next, Sarah sets out to throw the crates of liquor overboard. But suddenly, Jackson has a flash of inspiration. They could use the rum as fuel. With his injury preventing him from doing the task, Sarah takes on the mission. Gathering her courage, she climbs outside and onto the roof of the plane. Once she reaches the wing, she opens the fuel tank and begins pouring in the alcohol that Jackson hands her. After emptying all the bottles of rum, Sarah tries to make her way back and narrowly avoids falling. The risky move pays off, and the fuel gauge rises slightly. Jackson informs Sarah that he spotted a small island along their route where they might be able to land. He urges her to turn back immediately, as it could be their only chance for rescue. Trusting his judgment, Sarah takes the pilot's seat. The couple attempts to notify the dispatcher of their intentions, hoping the message gets through. Sarah turns the plane around, but after several minutes of flying, they still can't find the island. Then, the worst happens. The fuel runs out entirely, and the engines shut down. The plane begins to glide through the air. Realizing the dire nature of the situation, Sarah takes a moment to apologize to Jackson for all the hurt her actions had caused him. Jackson also apologizes for being selfish and not respecting her choices. Suddenly, Jackson spots a tiny island through the window. Filled with relief, Sarah maneuvers the plane to glide toward it. She attempts to land, but at such a low altitude, she completely loses control of the aircraft. Jackson desperately shouts into the radio, trying to alert the dispatcher about their emergency landing. Despite Sarah's best efforts, the plane crashes into the water and flips upside down. Water immediately begins to flood the cabin, trapping the couple inside. Sarah manages to pry open the door and swims to the surface. But when she reaches the air, she realizes Jackson isn't with her. Panicking, she dives back down and finds him unconscious, stuck beneath the wing of the sunken plane. Sarah grabs a life jacket from the cockpit and fastens it around Jackson's neck just before the plane sinks to the ocean floor. They both float to the surface, and Sarah pulls Jackson's body to the shore. Once there, she administers CPR, and Jackson regains consciousness, coughing up seawater. The exhausted couple collapses onto the sand, relieved to be safe. They quickly drift off to sleep. When they awaken, they find that the land around them is almost completely submerged. Sarah, now in a state of hysteria, realizes that their chances of survival have dwindled to nothing. She looks around frantically for rescue, but all she sees is the vast ocean surrounding them. Weary and depleted, Jackson understands that his chances of survival are slim. He offers his life jacket to Sarah, but she refuses, insisting that they are a team and she will stay by his side until the very end. Jackson's wound begins to bleed, attracting the attention of nearby sharks. The couple confesses their love for each other, acutely aware that their time is running out. Just then, a small fishing boat approaches, having picked up their distress signals. With her last bit of strength, Sarah pulls Jackson toward the boat. They manage to climb aboard just before the sharks catch up to them. As survivors, they promise never to say goodbye again and share a kiss. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more recaps from our channel. See you in the next video.